Hello and welcome to the Business Brunch. My name is Melinda Ward and I am here with my cohorts. We've got Vanessa Ashworth and Andrew Priestley as our special guests today. We'll do formal introductions in a bit, but welcome. We are here to bring you some valuable insights through the next half hour. And we would love to know what questions you might have on the topic of taking holidays and truly separating from the office, turning off the notifications, walking away and having a proper break. So it's very timely because we're coming into the school holiday season and even for those who aren't with kids in school, the general holiday season. Drop us a note in the chat and let us know where you're from and what your questions might be, and give us a bit of background about yourself if you'd like and if you're open to connect. So Vanessa, would you like to tell us a bit about who you are? And
Okay, I will. Why not? Yeah. So, you might have noticed that Sarah Farmer isn't here.
I was going to,
She's taking a break. She's switching off. I wonder if she's able to disconnect or whether she'll pop into the chat because she can't just stay away. That'll be interesting.
Definitely supporting us from afar, though.
Yeah. I'm on holiday next week. It is half term, as you said. So, will I be able to take a break? I did book a cottage with Wi-Fi, so maybe there's something telling in that. It's difficult to let go, isn't it? Anyway, I'm Vanessa Ashworth and I'm a marketer, and we have our special guest Andrew Priestley here.
Yeah, Andrew, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. I'm Andrew. I do executive coaching, but I also just do ordinary coaching as well. But I work with people who run established companies, their own founders, and really what we're trying to help them do is switch from operational to strategic. That's really the thing that we talk about. And it's really about people and performance issues. And I've just had a holiday. And I switched off.
Excellent.
Yeah. And LinkedIn was filled with beautiful photos of French countryside and buildings and cafes and all sorts.
It was the one with the baguette under the arm that really made me jealous, because there's nothing better than French bread, is there?
How can you go to France and not buy a baguette, right? Mm-hmm. But I was in the south of France in a town that's 12th century Bastide, right? Whatever that is. But anyway. But it was just magical, and it's surrounded by a wine growing district with lots of walks. And later on in this year, I'm walking the Camino Trail in Spain, right? So, and near where I was staying is a cathedral that's on the Camino circuit. So I walked to that a couple of times, and which was a 12-mile round trip, or 12 miles there and 12 miles back, whatever it was. But it was just magical.
Fabulous.
Awesome.
Ate too much, drank too much red wine, played bowling, all of that.
How perfect is that?
Yeah.
And my name's Melinda Ward. As I said, I am the Director for Managed Services and Consulting Solutions at Helm 360. And the reason this topic came up is last week I was doing a client meeting with my EVP and some law firm clients. And afterwards, we were having the post-meeting chat, as you do. And we were talking about holidays and how hard it is to unplug. And also, though, potentially how necessary and should we not. And it got me thinking about cultural differences, where in the American culture, truly unplugging is seen as maybe not being loyal to the business. But in France and Spain and other places where it's like, don't call them in August because they won't be there. They're on holiday. So there's really a dichotomy. In the UK, we're kind of in the middle, but skewing a bit more towards the workaholic, I think. Mm-hmm. So I think, Andrew, you might have some...
Before we do, let's just see who's in the comments.
Right.
I'm just so focused. And then we'll jump into that. So just a really quick hello. Tahorul, I'm sorry, I don't even pronounce your name, but hello. And he says, how are you? We're all good. How are you? Mm-hmm. And then Danny is here. He says, his money is on Sarah popping by. This is part of the challenge of holidays, when you're super passionate about what you do. This is true, isn't it?
Absolutely. And good to have you, Danny. And obviously, we'll welcome Sarah in the comments if she wishes to join. But also having that space from things that you love is really important to get recharged and get that creative focus reestablished, isn't it? Because I think, Andrew, what do you see as the biggest problem with people not taking the holidays they should be taking and taking the breaks from work?
The context I would give is I really focus on executives and professional people. So some people can take a holiday, but we're really talking about professional people. Well, my comments are going to be about professionals. It's two things I see is, number one, it's legitimate. In other words, they can't switch off and take the break for legitimate reasons, right? So, for example, I'm indispensable to operations, right? And in my introduction, I said I help people transition from that operational to strategic, right? Most people I talk have, for as long as I've been coaching, have had that issue. How do I switch off from? How do I even go from that to that? Right. Second thing is that something you said as well, which was interesting, right? Was you might be the knowledge base and the governance base for your business, so you take a break. And then Vanessa, you were talking about you've got new teams. So the circumstances are you've got a holiday in place, but you've got a brand new team, and you're the knowledge and the governance base, and you're hands on all the operations. You've got all those three things, right? So those things I sort of say are legitimate, right? And if that's the case, just make a list. What are the legitimate reasons? But the second one, the one that I'm really interested in, is the self-imposed reasons. They're totally made up, right? They can't run this without me. That's a totally made up thing. In fact, if you honestly believe that, that's a reason why you need a coach.
Yeah, that's a fair point, isn't it? Is that if people have this kind of unhealthy view of not wanting to share work out or share responsibility out, when there are people in place to do that, that could be an issue where, again, getting some outside perspective is important. See, Alfie agrees.
Yeah.
He pops up on occasion, and it's more of a fuss to try to get him to not pop up. So he just kind of hangs out for a minute and then goes. But anyway, one of the things that I think, or I hear people say a lot, and I've experienced it too, is that, well, if I go on holiday and if I don't check emails every day, I'm going to come back to an inbox with like 800 messages in it after a week. And I don't want to do that. So how can we manage this better? I mean, do you advocate like just doing that, what I call email bankruptcy, where you just kind of put in your message that, or you just don't try even to read all 800 messages and see who shouts? Or do you really try to work through them?
What do you reckon?
I'm kind of a fan of the email bankruptcy thing, saying there's so many things that you're just copied on. And that truly, if it's a burning thing, if it has urgent flag or urgent in the subject line, fine, but otherwise, if it's just FYI stuff, you can dip in and dip out. You don't need to open every single one.
This is one of these things where, it goes to the definition of a break or holiday. As a principal, for example, all my devices get turned off at 9 o'clock every single day, right? The world keeps spinning. I think we use that phrase at some point, right? But as a rule, it's a rule. I don't turn them on till 9, and I 8:30, and I turn everything off at 9 as a rule, right? Clinically, we need a rest, and so you've got that issue of always on, right? And mentally managing something, and you don't get a break, right? So if I'm going to come, I mean, what's that whole story about? When I come back, there's going to be 600 to 800 emails. So what? Come back to 600 to 800 emails. Yeah. Or if you're already predicting that, you're already future pacing that's going to happen, what would your plan be if you've got a team? Have someone look at those and they sort them. Employ someone to just look at your emails while you're away, right? Or have someone do that full time, right? But we're not talking about the practical stuff of checking your emails. What is it that makes us, I can't not look?
It's FOMO, isn't it? That fear of missing out.
Yeah. Yeah, and what if something bad happens? And so, like my background's in psychology, right? And the biggest thing over COVID that I dealt with was anxiety, where people and what fuels anxiety, the proposition of what if. What if this goes wrong? What if something comes up? And that's just anxiety. So you go away on a 3-week holiday, or let's say you give yourself what's the standard? 7 days, 10 days that people take, right? I know I've worked with clients who they're on the phone while they're getting boarding, right? They've got the boarding call and they're actually queued up to get on. And they're actually talking on the phone up right up to the point where they say, please turn off your phones. So they're still running the business while they're sitting on a plane, right? If they've gone with a partner, let's say it's your husband, wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, significant other, whatever it is, and they're on the phone doing that. What are you thinking?
Yeah. You're not on holiday, are you? You're not with me. You're not present.
Yeah, and that sends a big message. You'll come later, right? And then you get on the plane, you fly there, and you go, oh, that was lovely. Get off the plane, check. Well, I've got air signal again. Make sure I got the signal with roaming. Am I getting charged £2.50 a day for this? Or, but I've got to check all that. See, it's all the anxiety that goes along with that. Takes you 2 days to wind down. Then you have your holiday. And 2 days before the holiday ends, what are you starting to do already?
It's that anticipation thing. Even if you're not checking, you're still thinking, oh, when I get back, I'm going to have so much to deal with, blah, blah, blah. So.
You've got it. You gene up the machine again, right? Yeah. What drives that? That's what I'm interested in. What drives all that, right? So it's either legitimate, and we're getting some really good comments in there too.
Come in, yeah. So Raksha said it's a really interesting conversation. Taking a break not only rejuvenates the body and mind, but also our creativity.
Yeah.
And she also adds that it stimulates divergent thinking. There you go.
Hey, have you ever had this situation where, like, number one, most people get their best ideas in the shower, right? Every argument's won in the shower, by the way.
The conversations we have with ourselves. Yeah. My best idea is coming on walking the dog.
Yeah, same. When you're not on. Yeah. And I make more money when I go on holiday, believe it or not.
Of course, yeah.
Right.
So I think it's put away the phone and just have a notepad handy for kind of noting down a couple of great things.
Yeah. So
get rid of that anxiety.
Who it was Raksha said about more creativity. That happens. But why does that happen? Because you've eased the foot off the throttle.
Yeah, and I think a lot of us get into what I would say like firefighting mode or reactivity mode. So you're not, to your point, Andrew, you're not thinking strategically, you're reacting. You're getting these emails, these direct messages in, whatever else, and you're, oh yeah, I gotta deal with that, have these meetings, do these things. You're always reacting. So you don't have the space, like the headspace, to step back and think more strategically. And you really need some, or at least I do, maybe others do as well, need something to kind of break that cycle, to break that pattern of reactivity so that you can kind of stick your head above the parapet and say, oh, hey, why am I in reactive mode? Why am I getting so many things in? Is there a bigger issue that we can reorganize, put people in charge of? Do we need more attention focused on a particular thing to streamline operations so that I don't have all these things to react with on a day-to-day basis?
Yeah, so Melinda, you're talking about, which I think it's a great point you've raised, right? It's the awareness part. So as a coach, my stock in trade is awareness, right? It doesn't work if you don't notice it. If you're just in reaction mode, the resentment kicks in and all that stuff. Why I need a break. And then you resent your team while you're on holiday, right? But the awareness part is, that's interesting. I'm doing. This is what I'm doing. This is what I'm thinking about. That. I mean, anything to do with mental health starts with what am I aware of? What's my awareness telling me, right? Mm-hmm. So I worked in the aviation industry a lot. Coached a lot of people in the aviation industry, where those air traffic controller screens with the round things, right? And so it's you're on the job there, and coming on the left of screen is an A380, right? And on the other side is a Bell 47 helicopter, and they go beep 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 like this. And I think, oh, you can see what's going to happen. You go, I think I'll go and have a coffee, right? No, you go to jail if you do that, because they'll intersect, right? They're on a collision course, right? So you get paid for your awareness. And a lot of execs that I work with, you think, oh, it's my skills. No, it's your awareness of what's going on. And if you ignore it at that point. So I know I need a break. What does that mean? A physical break, change of scene? Yeah. But you actually, when we're talking about mental health, you need a mental break and an emotional break from what's going on. And for me, the Camino thing is about a spiritual break. I just want to go and reconnect internally, right? A values break, all that sort of stuff. But it doesn't work if you then don't stop and go, hey, how am I being in this situation? I'm just like in that total react mode to this, and I can't switch off. So then your strategy is, what do I want to do about that? Why was it necessary for me to check 600 emails? Why was it necessary for me to mentally manage what's happening on the other side of the planet while I'm supposed to be having a holiday with my partner, for example? And your partner goes, I wish you didn't come. I'd have a better holiday without you. 'Cause your body's here, but your mind's not,
Yeah.
Well, and that can also be resentment as well, or tension, let's say, where if one party is wanting to disconnect and wanting to have that time on holiday with their whoever they're traveling with, and the other person is mentally not there. So the person who's not there has their head in work, but they're resenting the pull away from work because that's their comfort area. And then the person who's on holiday and wanting to do holiday is resenting that work commitment. So yeah, you're just breeding tension, aren't you? And that leads for trouble. It just, I mean, not necessarily like, I hate you or whatever, but it just it's not a positive situation. It's not a good energy. It's not a scenario where the break can be as enjoyable as it could be.
But hey, what do you think? Is it men the worst offenders or women?
Truly, and I've met both, and I think for different reasons, each can be bad. I mean, I know I can be feeling like super responsible beyond where I should sometimes because I've always held myself to potentially a higher standard to be perceived as equal.
Yeah.
Less so now, but especially in the early days of my career where there was very few women in tech. And there was always the perception that, oh, you can't handle it. You can't deal with these things. You can't deal with the pressure. You can't. And I'd be stood there saying, yes, I can. And I will show you. And so I get so dogged into that in the past that I wouldn't feel comfortable thinking that I could disconnect.
Yeah.
Because I would think, well, then I'd be seen as weak. And that's partly coming from the American business culture. I do recognize that. And it's not a healthy place to be either, because you're doing it for the wrong reasons. You're not doing it saying, oh, I really love this and I really need to support this one person for this one thing. Then I can be on holiday. You're saying, again, I need to be seen. I need to be present. Otherwise, my authority will be undermined. And that's not a great place to be.
And the other person, I mean, if you go on a holiday with someone else, for example, what's the objective of the holiday, right? It might be just to rest, right? And rest, I'm a big fan of rest. People don't sleep enough, right? That's why I turn the devices off. I know people who are still on the phone before they turn the light off and go to sleep, right?
Yeah.
So, and how the brain works is the brain goes, oh, we're still on. So then they say, oh, I've got type 1 or type 2 insomnia, right? But if you go on, like, okay, I went to France. Number one, I wanted a break, right? And when I go break, I want a break. I want to go and sit down in the village square. I want to buy a beer or a coffee. I want to read a stupid Michael Connelly novel. I want to walk through things. I want to go and visit cathedrals. I want to do part of the Camino training. I want to engage in that, right? And I want to hang out with my brother. And if I'm on a computer on a thing like that, I'm not engaging with him.
Mm-hmm.
If you've gone with a partner, I think men, I'm going to go right out on a limb here. Some men get almost like kids, where they get very resentful when they go on a holiday with their partner. Partner, can you get off that phone? Can you
Yeah,
just,
yeah.
right? And then it feels like mummy's telling me off.
Mhm. Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
go, what?
Yeah, I think it's actually, I saw something recently where it's like, if that's some sort of coping mechanism, if it's a way of coping with stress, and then if somebody is asking you to give up the way that you cope with stress,
Yeah.
even if you don't recognize that that's what it is, you're going to resent that.
Mm.
But I think Tom's got some things that
Yeah,
he
so
wanted
there's,
to share with
there's
us.
a couple of comments. So Tom says holidays can backfire with family or friends. Expectations can be different.
Mhm.
You know what? The best holidays I ever had were when I went alone.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Because you've got complete freedom and you do what you want. You can get up whenever you want and go wherever you want, and you don't have to tiptoe around anyone else. So that's very true. And he also says, I think it's important to have regular breaks throughout the year, some aligned to your own interests. I think that is also true. I think so I think, because what we've been saying whilst I've been listening is that this anxiety that stops us from allowing things to just be forgotten, it's part of fear. So what you were saying, Melinda, it's fear, isn't it? Fear of what might happen with you not being there, fear of you not being perceived in such a way, fear of you not being available or being seen to be available. So my question is, we've got the last kind of 7 or 8 minutes,
Mhm.
is, and I think I would ban emails anyway, but that's just in general. How can you prepare, or how should the leader prepare so that they can switch off for the holiday, mentally or in practically? What can we do?
That is such a great question. That is such a great question, because you're being proactive for a start off. I know I'm going on a holiday. I'd ask. I've got a guy who's going off to the US for a holiday, and I said, "What did you do last holiday and the one before that, before that?" And he told me the story. Oh, it was just emails and blah blah blah. I said, "Okay, so you already know this is how you are when you go on holiday." He goes, "Yeah, okay. So how's this holiday going to be different?" Right. So if someone says, "Oh, my holiday was disaster," reset the clock at zero. What would you do differently, right? And so here's the really important thing. We all know what to do. If I talk to, I mean, I'm dealing with professional, seriously clever people who know exactly what they should do. It's not like they need more advice from me, right? But my thing is, who are they being in that situation, right? Who are you being? So if you're someone who can't step away and you've got to keep looking at emails, what's going on there? Who are you being in that situation? You're not, and I took a break so I could rest, and I don't go on a rest break. I actually go on just a stimulation break. I go, but just different stimulation, if you know what I mean, like food, wineries, experiences. That's what drives that creativity that was mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
Melinda, what do you reckon?
Well, Danny's got a really good point that I just saw pop in. So,
He just says, yeah, it's just the fear between your ears, though.
Yeah, yeah. But you got to recognize that.
yeah.
That's the point. That's the point we're making. Yeah, yeah. Fear, by the way, is present, very present. Like if I'm walking down a dark street at night and then four guys step out of an alleyway, that's fear, right? What most people are dealing with is executive anxiety. Anxiety is where you're future pacing. What if this goes? What if that? What if I can't? Who can? And I had a client ring me yesterday and said, "Can you take the meeting for me?" I said, "No, I'm going on holiday. You know my business. Can you take the meeting for me?" I said, "No, because the world's going to stop if that meeting doesn't take place." Well, see, he already knew that was coming up. So the thing is, if you know it's coming up, how could you prepare for that? So preparation.
Yep.
What would a grown up do, by the way?
Well, I mean, personally, I'd reschedule the meeting for either before or after,
Yeah,
or have a well-prepared delegate in place. But I think that communication and setting expectations from the outset, like in the week before, not just saying on Friday to somebody, "Oh, by the way, I'm going to be on holiday next week. Don't call me, I'll call you."
yeah,
Um, but to say, like, even before that, "Hey, I've got this coming up. This is what's going on. Do you have anything extra? Do you have any questions? What do you need from me before I go?" and kind of try to get everybody set up for success. Because just as you say, that fear of, well, what if it all goes wrong? But what if it all goes right?
Yeah. And what if it does go wrong? So what? Just
Yeah.
go back and fix it.
Yeah. Good point.
Yeah, it's like, what's the worst that could happen? And then how would I deal with it? And then as long as I can deal with that,
Yeah.
there we go.
I had a guy who said, "Oh, I can't take a holiday because blah, 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 blah." That's all his own fear, right? The fear between ears, as Danny said, right? And I said, why would you want to work for a company that creates so much fear in your life? And the fear is, what if I lose my job? Well, if you lose your job, go get another one. Are you any good at what you do? Yeah, well, be unemployed for a while. Go start a business or go work for someone else, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but and there's the resistance point right there. That's the conversation, the coaching conversation, right? What I find is people live inside that story. They operate from that context of fear, right? Which is a really great point we've made here. So if you're operating from within that story, then all your decisions are going to be fear-based, right? So a coach can see that, this is just a fear story we're having, right? So, often I'll say, what story are you operating from inside of, right? Oh, the one where I can't switch off the phone, I can't do this. That's who you've been. You're fearful, right? You just see it for what it is, call it for what it is,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then the doing, and Melinda, it's like, I know all these things. Then it's, I'm being given all this advice from my coach, and I resent my coach, and now I resent my wife, and I resent my husband, and blah blah. Because it's
But
still,
that's all a fear response. It's all that trying to build that armor up to say that this coping mechanism is working for me, and I'm not willing to release it. But when in fact it's a perception that it's working, and it's really not. And those people are just trying to highlight the opportunity for positive change.
The guy who had that conversation with, he said, there's two reasons why this is going to go wrong. And he said, why? I said, number one, you're an idiot. That was and I said, and number two, you've got to grow up.
Yeah.
The way you're doing holidays is not how grown-ups do holidays. What grown-ups do is they go to France, they get a carafe of red and some baguettes,
bottle of wine, some cheese, good to go. Yeah.
They get the bocce balls or the boule balls, and they just go and they go. They're present. They're playing bully. That's what we're doing. It's not like I'm thinking about what's happening back in my office. And if that's happening, why is it necessary for me to be thinking about what's happening back at the office? What's going on? Either it's a practical, legitimate reason, or it's totally I'm making it up, right? Particularly if I've gone with somebody, am I being present? Am I engaged with that person? If you're not, then I'd probably need marriage guidance counselling or something like that as well.
I like that idea of like, who am I being? So when I'm at work, I am being a good marketing manager. I am being a good teammate. I am being a good leader. I'm being accountable, and I'm being a good worker. When I go on holiday, I'm being the best mum. I'm being the fun mum. I'm being the smiley mum. I'm being the mum that's buying the ice creams and coming up with great ideas. Yeah.
But then that lets you become an even better leader, because you're modeling good behavior for your teams as well.
Yes.
And you're actually modeling good behavior to yourself, because you're developing self-trust. And self-trust right now, we've had, we're in a, who do I trust? Well, start with yourself. Can I trust myself to go and have a good holiday, a good break, and unhook from this? Can I trust myself to set up the practical things that need to happen? But, if it all goes pear-shaped, so what? I don't care. I'm on holiday. I'll come back and fix it. I'm good at what I do. I know how to fix stuff up if I need to. And that in itself is a wonderful thing, because that actually creates a learning scenario. How did this happen? What did we learn from that we can rebuild into that, so anyone on this team can take a break and genuinely step aside? And I've employed people where I said, you didn't have a holiday, switch off, leave your phone here. What I'm saying, I want you to come back rested, not stressed.
Yeah. And really be a better team member and leader as a result. But believe it or not, we're actually out of time.
But I kind of also, I think the email thing, just as a last point, set up the expectations, tell everyone you're going on holiday in time, but also on your out of office, just say, it's unlikely I'm ever going to respond to this because there'll be hundreds of them. So give me a call next week. And then
you can put that on the intro
delete them
one.
all.
But on the external one, don't just say, I'm out of office. Say, I'm out of office for this type of problem, contact this person with an email, and this, for these sort of situations, contact this person, blah, blah. So give people a mechanism to solve their own problems, and they will. Most of the time, they will. And that's a beautiful thing. But if I've seen so many people just do the out of office, yeah, I'm away till next Tuesday. I'll be checking emails every day. And I'm kind of like, well, firstly, you're not away. And you're going to do a crap job of checking emails and following up. Give me someone else to talk to who's still working, who's actively working and can help me solve my problems today.
But most emails can just be ignored.
Yes.
My holiday, I let people know 3 months ahead, because some of my clients, that's the sort of lead times we work on. If that's you, that's how you have to do it.
Yeah.
But as a coach, I've got some people who, we coach on quarters, 90-day goals. Well, okay, I'm not in 90 days. I'm away for 3 weeks. Right. So mentally, and that's a fair legitimate thing. If you've got good clients and you want people, so that preparation thing, what do I need to do? I can't remember whether it was you, Vanessa, or you, Melinda, said it. What do you need from me so that I can just switch off? That's a legitimate, fair question.
Yeah.
Right. And who can I pair you up with while I'm away? And but why would anyone want to contact you while you're on break? I'm on.
Yeah, that would be bad form. Saying that, we have come to the end, and next week it's a bank holiday. So we're not going to be here. We're going to take a break. We're going to switch off and really enjoy ourselves.
And Sarah didn't join us.
There
Absolutely.
you go. And we'll be back at the beginning of June then.
Yeah, June 5th.
Yeah,
we've got a really special guest
who's going to teach us how to learn how to breathe, and I've forgotten her name. It's
Jane Tarrant.
Oh, well done, well done. Yeah, she's going to tell us how we're breathing all incorrectly.
Yeah,
can't wait.
Life without breathing, it's pretty hard.
Yeah, this bloody oxygen addiction, so we've all got it.
The business Brunch is awesome, by the way.
Oh, thank you. And thank you for coming joining us again. It's been absolutely fantastic having you with us.
Yeah, you guys are magic.
Thanks, Tom, Danny, everyone else for your comments. Much appreciated. And we will see you in 2 weeks. Thank you so much, Andrew, for joining us. And Sarah will be back with us when we restart in June.
Cool.
God bless.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Have a great week.